You will never go farther than the limits of the person that you see yourself as. In other words, you will never go farther than your self-concept or your identity, what you conceive to be true about yourself. In other words, your identity determines how high you go in life, how successful you are, what kind of person you are, how good your relationships are, how much money you make. But it also determines your limits and where you'll be held back. You will never change your life until you change the person that you see yourself as. If you think that you're bad with money and you're just somebody that struggles with money, you've always struggled with money, and that's just who you see yourself as being, you will never be able to escape that reality, and you will always struggle financially because that's who you see yourself as. It's become a part of your identity, and your identity shapes your reality. So if you want to recreate yourself, your identity is going to be either what holds you back or what propels you to your dream life. You can't just wait for things to change if you want them to change. You have to change who you see yourself as first, and then reality will begin to reflect that back. What's up, everyone, and welcome to today's video, in which we're going to be talking about recreating yourself. I'm going to give you actionable steps on how to go through this process. And I have my notes here as well, but I'm going to tell you exactly how to shift your identity, because when we come to talking about reinventing yourself, recreating yourself, you can't have this conversation without talking about states. Many different people have different ideas for this. On the one hand, you have Frederick Dodson, who talks about parallel universes of self. Then you have people like Neville Goddard, who talks about, again, shifting through different states. We are merely occupying these different states. Carl Jung also talks about these archetypical states of consciousness. And again, Vadim Zeland brings it kind of all together, talking about how we are these different characters existing in these different film roles. And we have the power to change this script, and I'm going to share how in this video. The first thing that we have to understand, the most important thing when it comes to this idea of recreating ourselves, is first gaining clarity on who this person is that we want to become. It's also important to realize that you cannot go farther than what you see yourself to be. You cannot go past the limits of what you perceive to be your own limitations. Maxwell Maltz talks about this in Psychocybernetics. This is akin to this idea of the glass ceiling that you hear about, or the experiment that they've done. There's actually many experiments they've done over the course of time, but the flies that are in the box, and they put glass on top of the box. The flies didn't think they could jump higher than the glass. When they removed the glass, the flies still didn't try to escape. This also ties into the idea of learned helplessness, where Martin Seligman and Stephen Mayer in 1967 conducted this experiment where they had dogs subjected to these inescapable shocks that they put on them. And when the dogs were then placed in situations where they actually could escape, they didn't try to escape because they had learned that their actions were futile. And that's really what's going on, is that by having certain ideas of limitations or certain ideas of what's possible for us because of our beliefs, our limiting beliefs, we then don't even try. We don't even go for the thing that we want. And this is why stepping into this new version and shifting your identity, shifting these and removing these limiting beliefs really too, is a huge part of this process. Because if you don't believe something's possible, if I don't believe that it's possible for me to get that physique or shed the pounds, or that it's possible for me to make money online, or that it's possible for me to have a good relationship, then there's going to be a part of me at least that doesn't even attempt it. Because in my mind, you probably have known people too, that when you can hear the way they're talking, the negative self-talk kind of creeps out. It's easier to witness with people around you than yourself. But you probably ran into people that are like, yeah, I just never have good relationships. I can never find the right person. I can never seem to lose the weight. I can never seem to fill in the blank. And you can witness by looking at their self-talk and the way that they conceive themselves to be, their self-concept, that they don't believe in this. So they're not even trying. It's the same type of ideas you see online where people are like, oh yeah, that's a scam. I would never go for that. People think that making money online at all is a scam, unless they maybe know somebody that's done it. But that type of mentality is an example of this inner limitation that people have around certain topics. They might think as well that they're never going to be able to, if they're surrounded by people who don't necessarily have a great diet, that even if they tried to clean up their diet, they're not going to have any success with their health, or they're not going to get in a better direction, the direction that they're trying to go with their weight. There's obviously, it manifests itself in many different forms. So there's often two different paths that people go down when they want to create a change in their lives. And for the purpose of our conversation, we're calling it stepping into that new identity. Usually it's the outer first approach or the inner approach. The outer approach being, I'm going to take action of this person. I'm going to do these things. I'm going to get up early, right? Get my stuff ready, go to the gym. And that's how I'm going to develop this habit and become this different person. The other one is the inner approach, which we talk about a lot on this channel. That is going in, addressing these beliefs, doing perhaps shadow work, or really realigning your self-talk so that you are having better thoughts, that you are thinking like that new person. And by thinking those better thoughts, by thinking in alignment with that version of yourself, you begin to behave in the manner that that person would. If you notice online, there's a big dichotomy between these two things. And a lot of people are engaging in what I call black and white thinking, where certain people are, you got the motivation videos and people like David Goggins and the hustle culture, right? And then on the other hand, you have all the spiritual manifesting people talking about this approach. What I actually advocate here on this channel, and I've tried both. I think both are valid and both work. So I'm going to share with you my take on this, on how we can kind of blend the two together, take the best of both worlds to make this work for us. So one of the better examples that I came across of the idea of shifting your identity and your self-concept is explained in James Clear's Atomic Habits, where he talks about two different examples, where in one example, one person's saying, I'm trying not to smoke, for a person who's trying to quit smoking. And the other example is they reply, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. So you can see with the language of the second one, which one do you think is going to be more powerful? The person that's trying and efforting and using their willpower not to smoke, or the person that just believes, no, I'm just not a smoker. So obviously, logically, the conclusion would be that I'm not going to take that cigarette, right? If somebody's offering you a cigarette and you're not a smoker, you're going to decline the cigarette. So this is why your identity, your self-image, your self-concept is so important. Is if you see yourself as somebody, as this person who is healthy, for example. You have a person, for me, I'll use myself as an example right now. I, for whatever reason, have had a pretty easy time. I've done intermittent fasting. I go to the gym. I've currently been not going to the gym as much lately, but I've never had a problem getting into the gym, eating cleaner. Just the other day I was at Chick-fil-A. I just got the sandwich. I even was craving the fries a little bit, but because I have this self-concept, this identity as being somebody who makes good decisions in regard to my health, it's pretty easy for me to decline the fries or decline having a big milkshake or a soda or whatever it might be, a bunch of fried stuff that is not going to be in alignment with that version of myself that I see for myself. A lot of people struggle with this. And for me, there's definitely certain areas of my life that are not as easy for me to kind of maintain. But because of my image of myself, my self-concept, and my identity, who I believe that I am, is somebody that always makes, or at least if not always, that very much of the times, it's very easy for me to make the healthier option when it comes to my diet. It's just something that happens. I don't have to use a lot of willpower or a lot of effort to make that decision. When you begin to tell yourself the story that, yeah, I always make good decisions, I always make decisions that my future self is going to thank me for, your behavior is going to begin to align in that direction. The thing is that there will be times where you do need to use some willpower, because we are all human beings. If we're really craving that milkshake or craving that ice cream, and sometimes maybe you want to allow yourself to have it as a treat, right? As long as you're not making it a habit where that is your baseline behavior, is to go to Chick-fil-A every day, get the milkshake, get the fries, right? Stacking the small wins is important with this too. You want to take those as evidence that you are becoming this new person. And that's where we're going to get into the process-oriented aspect of this video, because it's a lot easier sometimes to go up the ladder step by step than it is, let's say, if you are somebody who's used to eating junk food all the time, to instantly become this version of yourself who's just eating this very clean diet. One aspect of this that people don't talk about necessarily, and people I think shy away from, is this idea of dying to your old self, or letting your old self die. In many ancient cultures, this was something, especially for men, but I believe women had some sort of rites of passage too. They would take the men away from the boys and really make them go through some very arduous training, or they would throw them literally into the wild and have them survive. They would do all kinds of things that by today's account people would think are terrible, but there was a reason that all of these ancient cultures did this when they were transitioning boys into men, and that was to kill off that old childlike mentality. And there's an aspect to this that is very vital if we want to step into this new version of ourselves. And Neville Goddard talks about dying to the old man. It is a death that in life necessitates a death of sorts. In order to transition into a new timeline or a new version of yourself, you're going to have to allow that those childlike habits die off. And one way that we think about this is this victim mentality, this type of mentality that's always seeking approval from others. If you are holding on to any of that stuff, you're not going to have an easy time transitioning into that new version. Let's say that you are at the dinner table around whatever, Thanksgiving, holidays, and everyone wants you, or even just a normal family dinner, and everybody wants you to eat all the cake and stuff your face with all the stuff. If you still are overly concerned about what other people think about you, if you still go and revert back to those thoughts, well, it's so hard when everybody else is doing this, you're gonna have a hard time, again, adjusting your diet for that example. It really comes back to you stop and cutting off all of those childish behaviors and immature types of behaviors. The reverting back to it's like, it's too hard, and why is it so hard, and woe is me type of attitude that has really gotten you to where you are. And if you're looking to make this change, you have to cut that off so that you can make room for the new, resilient, and powerful person that you're trying to become. It's kind of like if you want to move into your dream home, but you're not willing to move out of your old apartment. Your old apartment is familiar. It's got all the stuff, all the memories, all the things that you cling on to. So you're not willing to move into that new energy because you're still holding on to the past. As it pertains to yourself and changing yourself, that's going to be old habits. It's going to be old thought patterns, that old victim mentality that's, again, comfortable and familiar. You cling on to the fact that I just wish that I could have this, the wishful thinking. There is an aspect of holding on to, protecting the inner child and the creative aspect of that. But those childlike parts of yourself that are just kind of going to throw a tantrum, that are going to ask to be saved, are the parts of yourself that cannot continue on into this new self that you want to become. The unfortunate truth is that a lot of the people that keep us stuck into these old patterns are friends, family, and people that we've known from the past. If you've always been the shy, insecure person, it might be really hard to transform into that magnetic, charismatic version of yourself around your best friend who always knows you as that version. So at this point, you are probably asking, how am I actually going to do this? What are the actual steps to do this? So first, I'm going to give you a quick process that you can do to actually address these beliefs. The full process is written in my ebook below that's free to download. And essentially, it is uncovering these limiting beliefs, getting to the heart of them, and then removing them. So for example, common example that many of us have is a core belief that I'm not good enough. You do this exercise where you write down your belief. You say, I have the belief that I am not good enough. And you are going to say, after this, you're going to write down, I choose to remove this belief because it no longer serves me. I choose to replace it with the belief that I am good enough and that I am powerful and able to become the person that I choose to be, or whatever it is that you're working on currently. That's just a broad example. But doing this with also a visualization of this belief shattering in your mind, and I have the process linked below in a book, full process for you guys to download for free, has helped me immensely in this process. Because identifying what your limiting beliefs are and then choosing and proclaiming that you are now removing them, banishing them from your mind, and replacing them with an empowering belief is very helpful. I talk about this all in my book, The Robotic Affirmation Code, which is also linked down below, in terms of how to choose, how to declare and proclaim things, get control over your self-talk, the stories going on in your head, and how vitally imperative that is. Now, the other process, to go from the more, that's the inner process, right? To go from the more outer in approach that I mentioned earlier in this video, what we're gonna wanna do is understand and develop what in NLP is called modeling, and in acting is called method acting. We essentially wanna act as if. So for this process, we're going to want to identify somebody that we believe and essentially steal like an artist from. It could be an actor, it could be somebody that you know in real life, somebody that you admire, somebody that you want to become more like. And you are going to observe and internalize their way of being, the way that they speak, the way that they carry themselves, their mannerisms, and you are going to begin to put this on for yourself. Now, there's two ways you can do this. One is to do this in the mirror. The other way is to, much like I have right now, take your phone out and record yourself. And that way you are going to be able to observe yourself and try on wearing this new suit. Basically, being this new person, being this new version of yourself. And as you begin to do this, you're going to begin to notice certain things. You're going to begin to notice certain mannerisms, certain things that you used to do, maybe certain ways that you reveal timidity or neediness or insecurity, and you're going to begin to shift them into other more powerful ways of communicating and of expressing yourself. If you think about Christian Bale in Batman versus him in The Machinist, he is a completely different person. It's like a complete 180. In Batman, he's completely confident, he's jacked, he's very, powerful and toned. But even as Bruce Wayne, he's very confident. And in many roles, he's very confident. But in The Machinist, he is literally emaciated. And it's like you're watching a completely different person. The best actors and actresses that you see are doing this, where they embody that role. And of course, unfortunately, Heath Ledger is no longer with us, and many believe that it's because he embodied that role of the Joker to such a degree that he's no longer with us today. Another kind of recent example that I can give you of this idea of self-talk and how it informs the way that we show up is, for a long time, I have had this idea of myself that I'm kind of a perfectionist. My grandpa was, my mom was, and a lot of things that they would do, they wouldn't really finish. And I think a lot of people that are maybe intelligent or people that are very well read and knowledgeable suffer from this because they're really concerned with making it perfect. They don't want to release anything until it's perfect. And I've really embraced this concept of imperfect action. And with that, been able to release my book, which again is available down in the description. And it took me almost 6 months to write this book. And there were times where I was like thinking, is this good enough? Is this even worth it to do this? But I kept working consistently throughout those months, and the book is now available and it's finished. And it is something that I'm proud of. It is something that I truly believe has the power to transform people's lives if they use it and apply the information inside of it. I've had lots of things that I've tried and failed at, including drop shipping. I built a whole website. I tried to source the lights that I wanted to get from my suppliers and not find anything that actually measured up to the quality of what I wanted. And so I have this, this belief somehow that I start things, but I don't get them finished, or that I've failed at these online businesses. But me being able to finish this book by telling myself, by doing the action as well, showing up as that person and believing that I have what it takes to finish something and that I have what it takes to bring a quality product to the market, I was able to finish that book, and it is available for purchase below. The same thing happened when I was on my sales journey. I didn't really have that much experience with sales. There are a lot of people that try door-to-door sales that don't get any success with it ever. But I told myself that I am a phenomenal salesman. And I also backed it up by, in some cases, knocking over 100 doors in a single day to back this up with action. Because what would a phenomenal salesman do? What would a stellar salesman be doing? Would he be taking lots of breaks, sitting around, or would he be making sure that he made the most of his time knocking on as many doors as he possibly could and learning? I also took it upon myself to download courses, download books, audiobooks. I took in as much information and utilized my mentor as much as I possibly could to get better and improve at the process of sales. In life, people often become who they tell themselves that they are. And so when you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, I have this limitation, I have this inability, this imperfection, I have this quality about myself that is a reason why I can't do this thing, you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the reverse is true. If you tell yourself that you are capable, this is actually coming together for you, that things are working more and more, that things are getting easier and easier for you, and that you're stepping up to the plate and making the most of this opportunity, then that will tend to be what happens. But it also needs to be backed up, again, with that action. The kids who grew up with encouraging parents who believed in them and told them that they were smart and intelligent and gifted tend to do better in school than the parents that told their kids that they could never measure up, they weren't smart enough, they weren't good enough, etc. So take the small actions and realize that it's a process. If it doesn't feel okay for you to all of a sudden say that you are a millionaire or that you are this really successful online business owner, you can tell yourself and use what I call process-oriented affirmations, where you were telling yourself, I'm becoming better and better at business. I'm becoming better and better at sales and marketing. And my products are improving every single time that I work on them. Every single day that I work on this, my skills are improving. And really cultivate that belief by stacking the evidence along the way. One of the things that my mentor told me in sales, he has this phrase that he still uses to this day, which is fast is slow, slow is fast. And in the context of sales or even dating, the person that is trying to get the sale right away, they're trying to make the sale, they're trying to be that pushy sort of salesman archetype, usually encounters more and more resistance than the person that takes their time, that's really got nothing to prove, that is really allowing the person to sell themselves on the product or service. Again, the same can be said in dating. The guys that are very pushy, or the girls that are very kind of overbearing with wanting to get a commitment out of a guy very soon. Any type of pushy behavior like that really actually makes the process either slows it down, or makes it not work at all. Paradoxically, the people that go about this in a more slow and steady approach often achieve the result they're looking for faster. Now, one of the final kind of tips and tricks and hacks to this that I've talked about many times is going to somewhere where nobody knows you. And this could be you going to a new city. It could be literally you just going to kind of a shopping mall or anywhere where people don't know who you are. It's a lot easier for you to begin to step and wear this new identity than it would be if you're at home with family or loved ones or your friends. One key affirmation that I like to use when I'm doing this is everybody loves me. And what I do when I do this, what I notice is that when I carry myself in this manner, and I carry myself and I embody that kind of quality of being that magnetic person that everybody loves or feels in some way drawn to, is that shop attendants, store clerks, people on the streets, random people, women will smile at me, and I will generally get really good service, really good responses, and really good interactions with people when I go into an environment where nobody knows me. Usually, if we are in this kind of environment where we are with people that know us and there's history there and there's all these preconceived ideas, it's gonna be a lot harder for us to kind of wear that new man, as Neville Goddard would say, or step into that new version and really engage in that method acting process that we're talking about. But when you go somewhere, maybe even you're going on vacation, Why is it that it's so much easier to reinvent yourself? It's because nobody knows you there. And so it's very much easier for you to take on that new role and really begin to embody that new character. So if you are going through some kind of life change, such as moving, graduating, getting a new job, and entering in some sort of transitory phase, or even going on vacation, use this as an opportunity to test out this new self, this new way of being, this new identity. And when you begin to do this, you're going to begin to stack the small wins and begin to look at it instead of going for the end goal, which I think kind of messes some people up sometimes when they're doing this. Go for this process-oriented approach. Remember this phrase, fast is slow, slow is fast. And as you begin to stack these small wins, where it could be that you're just going to the gym twice a week, instead of going full tilt from somebody that hasn't been going to the gym at all to making sure that you go every single day, you may burn out. You may find that it's too much of a jump. But if instead you commit to just going twice a week, going for like 20 to 30 minutes, then you're going to begin to stack that evidence and you're going to find it easier and easier to keep up with this new habit. Then you can change it from twice to 3 times to 4 times, and so on and so forth. Again, when it comes to your meals and your diet, instead of going to somebody who never eats anything, never eats outside ever, and going crazy with your diet, if you just begin to do meal prep once a week, maybe on a Sunday where you make a few healthy meals so that throughout the week you have 4 healthy meals to eat, now you're beginning to take a more sustainable approach with this whole process that will actually lead to more long-term results. And as you begin to stack these wins, you're going to begin to see yourself as somebody who is capable of following through with what you say you're gonna do. You're seeing yourself as somebody who stacks wins, as a winner, and really begin to see yourself as somebody who's becoming more and more at cause in your reality rather than at effect. So some points to remember is we need to die to the old self. Our past thought loops, our limiting thought loops, our familiar behaviors are our old behaviors that our body's going to want to revert back to because they've been imprinted so many times. Those neural pathways have already been gone over so many times that that's what's more comfortable. This is about changing your mindset, changing your thoughts, habits, and your thought loops, which will inform your actions. And it's a 2-pronged approach. So again, we're also going to begin to engage in these modeling practices, speaking to yourself in the mirror, speaking yourself into your camera, and developing and instructing yourself that you are becoming this person, this version of yourself. So with this cohesive approach, we're taking the best, again, of the outer to inner approach and the inner to outer approach, and we're combining them to give us something that will really see tangible results and isn't going about this in a very dogmatic way that says it has to be one way or the other. It can be both. And again, as we begin the process, we're gonna stack the wins, develop more evidence, and to reinforce this feedback loop as proof that we really are becoming this person that we say we are becoming. So I hope that this helps. I'm looking forward to your success with this process. Now, if you feel like you are hitting blocks with this whole process, and if you really want to dive in and use methods and proven systems that I have come up with and found and discovered over the years of doing this myself, my book is available for download down below, and it will give you all kinds of process-oriented affirmations as we've discussed in the video, all kinds of techniques for gaining control over that narrative inside, gaining control over the stories going on in our heads, and rewriting that narrative so that it suits our new version that we are stepping into. With that being said, much love as always. Drop this video with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.